what we thought was happening in our sales process was not. What that left me feeling like is truly a fraud because, here I am, one of the biggest card carrying members of Endless Customers and preaching it and teaching it. And our guys weren't doing it. When that came to light, it was really a gut check for me, one, as a leader, and then two, as somebody who's saying, hey, this is who we are. We really weren't that person. And so this alignment for us, we had never sat in the entire organization. I'd never had accounting in the room to talk about Endless Customers. I had never had our installation team in the room to talk about Endless Customers. It was truly just a sales and marketing thing. And that was such a colossal miss for me as a leader. And so the alignment day was truly that. It was amazingly transformative for us organizationally to have someone like Allison that could guide us through that and really bring us together. It was a game changer.
You're listening to the Endless Customers podcast, brought to you by the team at Impact. Endless Customers is the proven system to become the most known and trusted brand in your market. If you want to start to learn the principles of Endless Customers and how you can implement them in your business, pick up a copy of Endless Customers, a national bestseller wherever books are sold. Ready to start implementing Endless Customers in your business? Talk to Impact about how our coaching program can help you implement Endless Customers to success. And if you want to experience Endless Customers in person, do not miss our upcoming conference, Endless Customers Live, in Chicago, March 30th through April 1st, 2026. Registration is now open. And now, onto the show. Here's your host, Alex Winter.
In this episode of the Endless Customers podcast, I'm sitting down with Impact's executive coach, Allison Riggs, and Southwest Exterior CEO, Ryan Shutt, to talk about what Alignment Day really looks like, and not just at the leadership table, but across the entire organization. Alignment Days are focused, 3-hour training sessions designed to break down barriers, unify teams, and create shared buy-in around the Endless Customers system. Now, Allison and Ryan discuss how these sessions have helped Southwest Exteriors clarify strategy, strengthen trust, and get everyone pulling together toward a common vision. They also shared the moments, the lessons, and the breakthroughs that have made alignment a lasting force in their business.
All right, Ryan, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here, my friend.
Yes, glad to be here, Alex. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time. And Allison, thank you for being here as well.
As always, sir.
Awesome. So Ryan, can we kick things off with you? Can you just paint the picture and just tell us a little bit about yourself and also your organization, just so that our listeners and audience get a sense of what you guys are all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm the CEO at Southwest Exteriors, super exciting company. We do window siding, door replacement. So it's exactly what I dreamed of when I was a little kid. It was either, first base for the Royals or this. And so you can see which one won out. I've been in the industry for, almost 18 years now. And my story is one of, I'm proud to share it now, but looking back at, it's one of kind of, being ashamed of approaches, in the home and, being misleading to customers and, homeowners. And so came across They Ask You Answer about 4 years ago. And when I was in the marketing director role and rolled it out to the team and said, hey, this is something I think we should do. We read it collectively as a leadership team. And the buy-in was awesome. And so from that point, it was really kind of just a turning point for us organizationally to kind of move toward just a more authentic and transparent approach to selling and marketing in the home. So a lot of years of doing this and a lot of years of doing it the wrong way. So super blessed and lucky to do it the right way now.
That's amazing. That's really amazing. I'm sorry about first base, by the way, too.
Yeah, it's okay.
I feel like you're a pretty big guy, though. Like in person, I've seen you at Impact Live. I feel like you could huck a baseball pretty fast.
I held my own back in the day, so.
Nice. Allison, this question is for you. I want you to maybe kick this off, right? We see this a lot where problems start to show up in organizations when they're implementing Endless Customers when it comes to buy-in. Can you talk about how important buy-in is from the top down and why someone like Ryan, who's the CEO, should be leading the charge and how it trickles down through the whole organization?
A lot of times when people think about Endless Customers or They Ask You Answer as a framework, they think about it as like a marketing framework. And they're like, great, the marketing person, they're going to take this in, they're going to do all of the things, we're going to get more leads, it's going to be really great. And when you actually start to live and breathe the Endless Customers journey, you see that it really is a holistic change within the organization. It's a culture shift. For a lot of organizations, it can be a change in process. It can be a change in philosophy. There's a lot of transparency that has to happen when you really think about building trust and coming in with that educational voice versus that typical salesy voice. And so the buy-in part is so incredibly important because just like with any internal shift that you have, right, or new process, you have to have people that are not only bought in, but really believe in whatever that change is or should be or can be, right? So especially thinking about how your leadership team is not only going to bring Endless Customers into the organization, but how are they going to hold people accountable? How are they going to make sure that standards are being met? And if we don't have buy-in, not only from the leadership team, but the individuals that are actually executing on all of the tactics within the Endless Customers journey, it's going to go nowhere, right? So that's the biggest piece of buy-in is, of course, believing in it, but then able to hold people accountable, make sure that we're moving on the right path, whether you have a coach or not, right? Your leadership team has to be so incredibly bought in and has to bring that passion and excitement and momentum into the whole organization.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. And for Ryan, for you, my question is, how did you know, or like, when was that moment of like, aha, the light bulb went off? Like, yes, I'm bought in and I want to implement this in my company.
Yeah, so I have a unique perspective, right? Because I sat in both seats, and so one of the most common questions I get, like at Impact Live, and as I'm meeting other people in this customers network, is I talk to a lot of marketing people, and so when we rolled out the approach, I was in the marketing seat, and so I was not the one that was actually leading the charge, and so for me it's a very unique perspective in that sense. And so for me, the aha moment was just I had seen Marcus speak at an event years ago when he was still the sales line. It resonated then, but I was so stubborn in my approach. As I grew in my career, and I saw the tactics, and I heard myself arguing with team members of how we should approach and how we should script stuff to homeowners. I mean, there's just a day where it started feeling gross. When your tactic is to mislead and say hey, here's all these gates, and we're gonna get the information that you want. You have to do it on our terms. And the consumer is just not there anymore. I mean, they don't want to buy on your terms; they want to buy on their terms. And so, for me, that was really the aha moment of going, man, this is where the consumer's going, and they're going there very, very quickly. And we've got to either lead, follow, or get out of the way, right? And so I think that we were, very much on the tip of the spear for our industry in making that shift. So that was really the aha for me, is just that feeling of going, man, this is not who I want to be as a leader and as a person anymore.
Wow, that's really profound. And so I love that you're bought in. You really see this shift happening where you need to have trust and transparency, and that these old tricks aren't really working anymore, and that buyers are wising up and don't want to play these games, basically. How did you get that to implement in your company and trickle down through your company, as far as like getting your sales leaders, your marketing leaders, like getting everybody bought into this idea of endless customers and implementing the Ask You Answer?
Initially, it was, sitting down with my CEO at the time and saying, hey, I read this book. It's a really, really good book, and I think everybody should read it. And so that was the initial pitch. And so luckily he was open to that. And our leadership team of 6 at the time, we took a month to read it, and we didn't talk about it in between it all. In the 30 days, we would come back and sit down together and say, hey, this is the direction we want to go or not. It was a resounding yes. And so I think it was unique in that situation, just from a cultural perspective of who we are. It resonated with who we want to be. And so from that perspective, it was actually, somewhat easy. And then from there it was going, hey, do we do this on our own? Do we try to figure it out on our own, or do we bring in a coach to help us through that? And so that was obviously the biggest decision for us, just based on our size at the time. This is an investment we wanted to make, and so the buy-in, luckily for us, was so high that it just made a lot of sense that we wanted to work with somebody that could actually guide us and truly teach us to fish in that process.
We hear that a lot. I feel like I've heard that a lot in my time here at Impact, where people read the book. I did this myself too, where I read the book and I'm like, this seems pretty straightforward and simple, and like I can figure this out. Like, it doesn't seem that difficult until you actually start to do it. And the accountability piece is really the hardest part, because producing this level of content on a weekly basis is easier said than done, right? So when you realized you needed a coach, what was your experience like integrating with a coach? Who did you work with? And can you just kind of tell us a little bit of that backstory of like what coaching did for you and for your business?
What I knew pretty early on is, with my marketing background, I was a direct response marketing guy, like, Dan Kennedy, all the OG, direct response stuff. So that was my approach. And so for me, it wasn't about messaging. It was truly about, numbers and analytics and getting the phones to ring. And so what I knew really quickly is I had no flipping clue how to coach a writer, yet alone a videographer. The book obviously outlined, very, very well of how to hire one. And so, kind of stumbled through that. We were lucky to, work with Zach Basner at the time. He was our coach for our 18-month journey in implementing the endless customers methodology. And so just to have that guide in that process for us was a game changer, because it would have taken probably 18 years to implement versus 18 months if I was trying to do it on my own. Because again, I can read an article and say, hey, yeah, that's really, really good. It sounds great. Or that's a good video. The funny story, and hopefully Chris Wager will forgive me for sharing this, our first 80% video was like 47 minutes long.
Oh, wow.
It was like, include everything. It's like, well, we're going to include everything. Without the guide and the coach, we would have had a 47-minute, 80% video that probably would have gotten 2 views, right?
Or not a lot of engagement. Maybe some views,
exactly.
But you'd have a lot of fall off pretty early on in that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Alex, let me tag in here, because I
Please.
think this was an interesting point that Ryan brings up, is probably old school salespeople or old school mentalities was, hey, we're the experts. Let's gatekeep this knowledge and have them either sign up for an in-home consultation or a demo. And let's just hold this information close to our hearts, pull them in, and then we can share it with them.
Yeah.
Versus endless customers kind of flips that on its head, right? Of, hey, you have all of this knowledge, freely and openly share it with everyone so that people can just educate themselves in general. That's how you become the trusted voice, with the byproduct being faster sales process, more loyal customers, right? Better referrals, all of that. And so what Ryan's saying is almost that, okay, great. Well, we've gate kept a lot of our subject matter expertise. How do we actually live this and bring it to the public in the right ways so that it's not a 47-minute video that might not be as digestible? So it's that process of bringing in a coach really just helps. Okay, great. How do we do this the right way? Like, how do we bring this expertise to the world to become that trusted voice? Because it does seem pretty easy, but how do you make sure that you're maximizing all of that knowledge into the most important pieces along the journey, whether it's the marketing side or the sales side?
And even to build on that too, because the concept of truly being unbiased, it would not have happened without a coach. Right. Because as business leaders, we want to slant and go like, okay, here's your other options. But of course, ours is the best option for everybody under every situation. So, I mean, that's how every article would have ended up, as opposed to truly being unbiased, because it's such a foreign concept to go, hey, we're actually dealing with adults and they actually are equipped to make the decisions on their own. And we just need to help and guide them.
Right.
And so that just was not, within the DNA of how our industry ran.
I love that. It's funny because Marcus says this time and time again. If you go to any of the events that we host, everyone thinks that they're the secret sauce or they're special or they're different. And the truth is self-service is where it's at these days. People are smart enough and we have AI and all these amazing tools to do our own research, to do our own homework and figure out what's going to be best for us. So if you're going to give people that information, they're going to like you a lot more and trust you a lot more than somebody who's trying to gatekeep, like Allison and you were both saying, where they're trying to basically hook the fish and reel you in and get you closer to the boat, only to drop a crazy price or some crazy thing that they weren't expecting. And that's where the fall off happens. Yeah. What other speed bumps did you hit along the way on your journey, Ryan? What else was tough? Because listen, it's a great system, but it's not all Skittles and rainbows.
One, there's the patience component, right? I mean, this is not an immediate spigot that you turn on and it's like, oh my gosh, I have all these, leads. I don't know what to do with it. So that was a challenge at first too, and going, hey, this takes time. This is a process. Our industry is very, I just listened to a podcast last night, actually. We're very big on make leads, right? Which is where you're either knocking on doors, you're going out to all these events. From our perspective, we don't do necessarily what we call make leads. I mean, we don't do that anymore. And so that was tough, because that's a very instant gratification moment where you can go out and generate leads right away. Whereas this, you're truly nurturing a lead to the process. That was, a very big obstacle for us, to go through initially. The pricing, man, that was the scariest thing when I was talking to my counterparts in the industry. All kidding aside, I mean, the most common thing was like, man, you were going to lose your job in a year if you put pricing on your website. They couldn't fathom in our industry, for windows, siding, and doors, that we would put pricing on our website, because that was the biggest secret. No one can know that. Market says a lot. I mean, our competition, they already know our pricing. So, I mean,
I was going to say, everybody already knows, right? Or at least has a ballpark of what your pricing is.
Some of those fears were obviously, pretty massive to begin with. And some of the stumbling blocks for us as we, went through the process. And obviously, as I was kind of thinking through this podcast today, just how much the pride cycle truly played a role in our journey, and it still is today. I know we'll get to it later, but the pride cycle, it was huge for us. It's the constant going, man, like we stopped doing these small things, and those small things would ultimately, caught up with us on several occasions.
Good points. Very good points. So I have a question here. This one's interesting. And Allison, I'm going to send this to you first, and then Ryan will come back to you for a follow-up. I want to talk about alignment day, because Ryan, you've been on this journey for a long time, and it's one of those things where you have to continue to learn and you have to continue to have accountability. But I want to talk about alignment day specifically. And Allison, can you just kind of, for people out there listening and watching that don't know what alignment day is, can you just give them the skinny on what it is and why it's so important? And then Ryan, I want to hear about what alignment day was like for you.
We started off with buy-in, right? And the only way for endless customers, or really any framework, to work is to have true alignment within your organization. And as Simon Sinek says, start with why. Right. So an alignment day really dives into, what is endless customers? Why is it important right now out of all of the other times? Why is it so important to lean into trust and transparency? And then how do I, as an individual within this organization, fit into that framework? So everyone leaves alignment day understanding what endless customers is, why it is so incredibly important right now, and then how do they actually execute, and how do they assist in making the endless customer journey run as smoothly as possible, right? So they're going to understand the big five. They're going to understand the selling seven. They're going to really get how all of this comes together from a marketing, sales, even an operations side as well internally, because we know it doesn't just stop with the marketing team.
Right.
The whole journey with your customers happens within your whole organization.
So true. Very good points. And for Ryan, for you, how was your alignment day? It's a pretty intense day because it's a full day.
It is.
the whole team, everybody in one room. I love it. I think it's great. But what was it like for you in your experience?
I know there's gonna be somebody that watches this podcast and this is gonna resonate with them, so I wanted to share, but really the driver for the alignment day was, we lost a long-term leader in our organization that had been with us for, well over a decade. And, what I found out and what I've continued to find out more since then is what we thought was happening in our sales process was not. What that left me feeling like is truly a fraud because, here I am, one of the, biggest card carrying members of Endless Customers and preaching it and teaching it, and our guys weren't doing it. And so, when that came to light, man, it was really a gut check for me, one as a leader, and then, two as somebody who's saying, hey, this is who we are, and we really weren't that person. And so, I realized at the core, that we said we were doing a lot of things that were Endless, customers adjacent, but we weren't really truly Endless Customers organization. So, we were not, living out who we said we were. And so fast forward to, Impact Live and just, getting the chance to sit down with Allison a little bit and talk with her and get to know her a little bit, and just understanding that, man, like, this alignment for us was we had never really done it before. I mean, we had our alignments, through the coaching that we did with Zach, but we had never sat on the entire organization. I mean, I'd never had accounting in the room to talk about Endless Customers. I had never had our installation team in the room to talk about Endless Customers. It was truly just a sales and marketing thing. And that was such a colossal miss for me as a leader. And so the alignment day was truly that. And it was, as we'll talk about more, it was amazingly transformative for us organizationally to have every department in the same room, to have someone like Allison, that could guide us through that and really, bring us together. It was a game changer. And so I'll share more, but that was really kind of, the mindset going into the alignment day for us of going, man, we have got to truly be who we say we are. And it started, that day. And I'll share a lot more of how we've continued that since that day.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to hear more about it. And Allison, for you, what was it like coming into the office and having everybody from accounting to sales and everyone in between all in the same room? What's that like for you as a coach, having the time and space to be able to do that?
I wish every organization did it.
Yeah.
It is, to Ryan's point about it being transformative, is everyone has to know and understand. And let's just say this, right? Endless Customers, of course, that's the framework we're talking about. But when we're talking about bringing trust and transparency, which are keywords, right? You're going to hear me say them over and over again. But even thinking about how does that process then continue in the accounting department, right? Hey, they're going to send videos, right? They're going to have transparency. Maybe they have got articles. Maybe they have things that are going to help educate their customers, their homeowners through the whole entire process. And so having everybody in the room, I feed on that. I absolutely love it because I know that that's when the magic happens. And those are the organizations that are going to go extremely far, just like Southwest Exteriors has, right? They're the ones that are going to continue this journey. And it's not totally dependent on me or our coaches. It really, truly is the opportunity for these teams to get together and have some of the conversations that they've probably never had before.
Right.
I know Ryan and I keep giving these little breadcrumbs of what we're going to talk about coming up, right? But it's such a great experience for people to not only learn together, but to brainstorm together, to hear what the other people are doing in their departments, to see how they did it before and where they've gone off track. How do they want to change? How do they want to evolve as an organization? Because that was cool too for Ryan is, he'd been doing the Ask You Answer and Endless Customers for a while. Right. So this wasn't hey, we're kicking this off. This is we've got to get back into the cycle again of doing this the right way. And so for there to be some humility in that room and excitement and passion was just an incredible experience for a coach.
Very cool. You got me on the edge of my seat. I want to hear some of these. You guys are teasing it. So I'm just going to, let's rip the Band-Aid off. I want to ask. So Ryan, I'm coming to you. Let's start with good first. What was a key takeaway from alignment day or something that was the biggest impact on you and your team? You had talked about your sales team, you thought were doing Endless Customers and they weren't. So you bring everybody together. What came out of that? What was something for you that was really wow, this was worth it, and here's why? The
biggest thing, this isn't even obviously around Endless Customers related, this is just organizational piece of it, is do not underestimate the power of removing a bad seed, from the team and the impact it can have literally in a day. I mean, there's so many stories I could share about, just how stuff changed simply in a day as far as how things were being viewed and done differently. That for me was just a big part of it, of just the openness, all the silos walking in that room. I mean, I don't know if Allison picked up on it or not, but just for me, the vibe and the willingness, we're always a slow start from a team. We're always they think the team needs their caffeine and their kick at the beginning, but there were no barriers. There was no fear of man, if I say this, there's going to be this repercussion. And that starts with me as a leader. And again, it's not a hey, Ryan's awesome. It's something that I've worked on, but for my team to feel safe to say, hey, yeah, you thought we were doing this. We really weren't doing that. I know you thought we were, but just the safety in that and the ability to, as a leader to sit there and receive that and not react and just, to encourage that honesty and that transparency, like that for me was just the level set. Like we had to start there or nothing else that transpired that day would have ever happened.
Yeah, no, that's a big deal. And when you set the conditions in the way that you did, really amazing outcomes can happen. Because I would assume that some people, if you don't set the conditions right, might go into a meeting like that going like, oh my gosh, we're in trouble. Oh my gosh, the boss is sitting us down and we're going to have like a really tough conversation. So what were some of the things that you did to set the conditions so people came into that meeting excited and ready to like have some maybe difficult conversations to really get after it and problem solve?
Yeah, I would say, it was probably the least popular thing that I did. But, one, it was non-negotiable. They had to read the book. I didn't want Allison to be sharing something for the first time, new ideas. And again, not that it would be a waste of time. I realize it's not necessarily ideal in every situation. But if you're able to have the team read the book or listen to the book, it's not a hard read, folks. I mean, just pick up the book and read it or listen to it on audio. I mean, it's not hard to do. For me, it can't start the day of or the week before. It's really about, leading with transparency and loving your employees in a way that's, doesn't make sense to them to where they feel safe. Not to make it about me, but to, I think the team feels safe with me in the sense that, I'm not going to lose my cool. I'm not going to judge. This is truly an opportunity for us to get together and level set and get better organizationally. Just that mindset and having those conversations beforehand of what to expect and the fact that, hey, the non-negotiables for me were read the book and being open and honest in the communication. And if we can do that, it'll be a successful day.
Great points. And I totally agree that those conditions have to be set because if you're going to call out the elephant in the room, you can't be afraid to do so. You have to be willing to go like, hey, this is working great and this isn't. And here's what we need to focus on to fix these issues. And that's how you get better, right? So I have a note here that says that halfway through your alignment day, there was a shift. And Allison, I don't know if you want to take this one, but it sounds like you were going one direction and there was a big pivotal moment. And I'm curious as to what happened.
It wasn't even close to halfway through, Allison, to be honest about it. So.
Ryan kind of mentioned it around, in every organization, there's silos and there can be cliques, right? And so especially when you've got a marketing team and a sales team and an install team and an operations team and like internal and client facing, not client facing, all of those dynamics. And so as we were going through the day, I mean, Ryan's team was incredibly receptive. I mean, it was going really well. It wasn't going poorly by any means, right? It's like, hey, we're understanding. And we started to build, I think we were like building the sales content map, Ryan, and we're just going through, and I could just feel it in the way that questions were being asked, or as people were kind of, body language. Wait, is that what we do? Is that how we say that? And it was like, okay, wait, hold on, guys. We can't go any farther until we address what's happening here. Like, I am by no means a therapist, but there is something that is like happening between these teams. And we just started to kind of peel the onion back to what Ryan was saying around, they had probably been doing the same things so many times and had shifts in personnel, but didn't put that into consideration, or shifts in some of the things. And it was like, all right, we're so many layers deep in this onion and we've got to disconnect. There is a direct disconnect between what sales team is doing and what install team is doing. And by no means did it happen intentionally. It just seems like it was one of those things that happened over time. And so we just called it. We were like, hey, we can't do anything else until we figure out exactly what's going on. And so we just kind of dropped everything, right, Ryan? And we were like, all right, let's do a role play right now. The only way to flush this out is to see exactly what's happening in our sales process and have the install team see what's happening live. And so we just ran through it a couple of times where sales team, install team member, going back and forth because they've got their expertise in each of the areas. And we just uncovered what was probably more of a miscommunication, but probably was a huge game changer for you, right, Ryan?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Allison's showing her humility. For me, it was a total like goat, like ballsy moment. I mean, it wasn't halfway through. Like we were 90 minutes from the end of the day. As a coach, someone that we paid to come in, Allison. I mean, and I'm not sure if we've talked about it even since then, but I gained so much respect for you as a person because like we were so close. Like you could have literally checked the box, and I would be like, hey, that was a really good day. And to have the guts to, with 90 minutes left, to say, hey guys, like this is not why I'm here today. It was transformative for us. And so simple stuff came out of that role play. And literally before the podcast today, I was actually in a role playing session with the entire installation and marketing and sales team. So I mean, it's something that we're continuing to do.
I love it.
I mean, simple stuff like, we use stainless steel screws when we install your windows. Installation was like, no, we don't. And so if you think about it, I mean, it's something so simple, but even from a homeowner's experience, if we promise that we're using something on their install and we show up on site and we're not doing it, like that's a miss.
That's a problem. Yeah.
So little stuff like that. And so it was so transformative for us. And I think it took real guts on Allison's part to say, hey, I'm calling an audible. You guys have this client journey map on your own. We're almost there, but we need a role play. And so it from that day forward, I mean, that has really been our focus. And so we're doing weekly role playing now through all stages of the client journey. I mean, it's been transformative for us organizationally. So much stuff has come to the head. And so next week is our first round of role playing what's changed. So our new call center script, some new stuff we're doing with sales, with installation, all that stuff will start being rolled out over the next few weeks as well. So it's been a game changer for us.
That's amazing. That's really amazing to hear. And it's funny because I remember when Marcus was first talking about role playing and introducing it even here, because we do it too at Impact internally, right? And it was fascinating what you think versus what happens when you actually play it out in real time. It's two completely different things. So if you're not role playing out there, people listening and watching, you should really reconsider it. So I feel like, Ryan, you're doing this now and you're leading the charge with role plays and you're doing this internally. But why was it so important to have Allison at least do the first one and kick it off during alignment day? Like, how did that set the tone or the expectation for your team?
Yeah, I think the best analogy that I could use for that one, I know Allison has kids. I'm not sure, Alex, if you do or not. You can tell your child the same thing 100,000 times and they will not listen to you. Like their cool aunt comes trotting in and is like, hey, don't touch the hot stove. And they're like, oh, that makes perfect sense, Auntie, thank you. And you're like, I've been saying this for 10 years not to touch this. Yeah. And you didn't do it. And so I think it's just that is we have to be cognizant of leaders to know that it is our job at times to be boring and to be repetitive and to bring the same message consistently, but to bring an outside voice and an expert in that can back up what you're saying and saying, hey, here's the power of this. It just shifts the dynamic. We have to understand that sometimes our employees, they probably do get sick of hearing us preach the same thing over and over again. So to bring in that third party, expert to say, hey guys, this is what we're seeing very successful organizations do. And it works. I mean, that for me is a huge support tool,
right,
to use to get your point across.
Right. So Allison, for you, I have to ask, because it sounds like you really put yourself out there. Like you were like, we're stopping the script. We're getting close to the end of the day, but we really have to address the elephant in the room. Where did you find the confidence to do that? And also, how did you create an environment where it like challenged people, but it also like gave people a chance to step up to the plate too? So like finding that balance of not like scaring people, but also challenging them to be the best version of themselves.
Well, there's twofold in here, right? I mean, clearly, like I've known Ryan for a while. He has been, like he mentioned, a champion of endless customers when they ask you answer.
Yeah, Ryan's OG. He's OG here.
OG, right? But I say this like because we have, we've known each other, and I just have so much appreciation and respect for him and his organization and everything that they've built so far. So that was a component of it, but that's also how I approach every team that I work with. Is it takes some humility to come in and want to do a shift like this. And so I will always show up with that mentality of, you brought me here for a reason. I'm not doing my job if I'm just letting you get away with the things that you've always gotten away with. And then maybe you'll get one or two things out of this, but then you'll keep going back to the things that you were doing before. So I would rather put myself on the line. I would rather be the person to say the hard things and call the things out, because one, I got to leave at the end of the day and Ryan had to deal with the rest of it.
Right.
But that's why I'm here. That's why any coach is here. You hire coaches to help you be better. You hire coaches to come and shine a light in the areas that you need and your teams need work in. And so I will never apologize for going off script, calling out the elephant in the room, and doing what's right, because Ryan came here for a reason. And at Impact, we believe in growing businesses, changing lives. And there's another one that I'm not going to remember. Bob Barflow, I'm so sorry.
Creating heroes. Yeah,
there you go. Creating heroes. Sorry, Bob. But like, that's what we're here for. If you show up with that mentality as a coach or a leader or a salesperson or a marketer, it really doesn't matter. If you can just show up with, I want to do what's right by this team, then you're going to say and do the things that need to be done.
Well said. And Ryan, for you, after this alignment day, which clearly was a pivotal day for you and your team, how do you keep what happened alive in your organization and continue to reinforce those ideas and like keep it going after that day happens?
That's Allison mentioned. I mean, she gets to dump the kids off with all the sugar, and then I have to deal with it afterwards. So one is we flush out what our client journey really looks like. It's been weekly role playing, so we'll continue that for probably about 4 more weeks, and then from there we'll transition to quarterly role playing where we get everybody back together. We still do that role playing. That'll be on the calendar. It'll be something that's non-negotiable. I've made it very clear to the organization that we are now a role-playing organization, and that's not going to change. Also, too, I do weekly video updates. So one thing since, being part of the Endless Customers methodology is just the power of video. And so I'll talk about things about, Endless Customers, about our values, about our mission statement in those weekly videos and cite examples and talk about the progress that we're making. So just by keeping it top of mind, is a big thing. And I actually have, I have some signs being made up of the pride cycle that we go up around the office as well. I think that for me is it's a huge reminder of the importance of doing the little things day in and day out. And role playing is something that you mentioned, and people, they cringe, they don't want to do it. And a lot of times, even that we found that in our process too, is role playing is not explaining your process. Role playing is truly interacting and saying, hey, this is what an interaction with the homeowner looks like. It's not, well, when I get there, I do this and I'll talk about this and this. It's like, no, let's have that real conversation. So I think it's important too to define what role playing looks like, and it's not just explaining what I do.
That's so true. Very well said. You have to really live and breathe those role plays. You can't do the haphazard, like half in, half out. You really got to go full send, because that's where you unearth those conversations, those words, those certain things that you're saying you're doing right or wrong, and you can adjust accordingly. Yeah. This has been an awesome conversation. I really appreciate you sharing this story with us. So for our listeners and our viewers out there, this is my favorite part of the show. Ryan, for you, and then Allison, I'll come to you. What's one thing, like out of everything we talked about, what's the one thing you would recommend people should take away from this combo?
I would just say if you're not role playing, start. I mean, the amount of stuff that you will uncover, if you're not recording your phone calls, if you're not recording your sales interactions, it starts there. I mean, we've even invested in an AI tool that will record all of our in-home sales presentations now. We didn't have that before. So you're reliant on this, what we call ride-alongs. And so obviously when you do a ride-along and your boss is sitting right next to you, what are you going to get? The best version of your presentation.
That's
right. And so, to have an AI tool that will now go in the homes with us and that we can actually, create role-playing scenarios from is going to be huge. And so, so simply that, if you're not role-playing, you got to start doing it. Plain and simple.
Absolutely. And Allison, how about for you? What's one thing you think people should take away from this conversation?
I'm going to blend it into 2. I think it's, you got to be humble and you got to take chances. And so being humble and having the ability to say, hey, you know what? There's no way that I'm an expert at any and everything on this planet. And so how can I just continue to live in a growth mindset and want to be better, want to learn more, want to be the absolute best at whatever that is: marketing, sales, operations, accounting, CEO, leading the podcast, being a coach who doesn't know your mission statement, right? Like whatever that is, just be humble, do your absolute best. And then taking the chances is, if you're a leader and you're thinking about bringing in endless customers, it's going to be a chance. Right? It's going to feel like it's taking a chance. It's going to feel like you're stepping out of your comfort zone. You're asking your teams to step out of their comfort zones. There's only one thing that's going to take your business beyond where you are now, and that's taking chances. You've taken a lot of them to get here. You got to keep doing that. And then if you feel like something needs to be said, just say it. Take that chance. Go for it. If you feel like your sales team isn't doing what they need to do, if you feel like your marketing team isn't doing what they need to do, come in with that humble heart and just have some radical candor moments.
I love that.
Allison's answer is way better than mine. I may want to change mine. So it was way better. Well done.
You guys both were great. Thank you so much for being on the show and for sharing your experiences with us. Allison, great talking to you. And Ryan, first time, but definitely not the last time. We can't wait to have you back on the show again.
Absolutely, guys. I appreciate it a lot.
All right. Well, for everybody out there watching and listening, this is Endless Customers. I'm your host, Alex Winter. We'll catch you on the next episode.